everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we are going to be doing a book haul, and we thought that we would sort of just discuss some of the reasons why we picked some of these books.
Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. We watched the movie when it first came out.
It was amazing.
So cute. Henry Golden is Bay.
He's
and
beautiful.
Basically, I just really like the storyline. And there's 2 sequels, so I'm thinking, let's read it before the next lot of films come out. And obviously, I do love a bit of reading a book to see how it compares with its movie adaptation. But I'm also intrigued to see how the author explores, like, Singaporean culture. So I'm intrigued, and it's a bit of light-hearted fun, isn't it? Like, it's cute. What do you have there?
Murder.
On the
This
dance
is
floor.
A murderous book. This one here is called The Murder of Harriet Monckton.
And who's it by?
It is by Elizabeth Haynes. I don't know why I said it like that. I hate pronouncing people's names because I feel like I'm always going to do it wrong. Yeah.
That's as English as it comes, darling.
I don't stand much hope, do I? But yeah, so the reason why I picked this book is pretty much because it's about a murder, and I like murders. Like, I'm not going to kill someone, I just like reading about them, I like watching them. This has suddenly become really weird. I normally prefer true crime because I like real murders. Still not helping my cause here. But I thought I'd give this a go because it did sound quite interesting. And it was like rated number 4 in the Waterstones chart, so I thought that if it's number 4, like, it's pretty good. And basically it's set in 1843, and there is a young woman called Harriet, hence the name of the book, and she has been poisoned, and the book is actually not from her point of view, it's from the points of view of people that knew her. So you've got, and it says it builds a compelling picture of her final days through the eyes of those closest to her. So a fellow teacher and companion, which sounds interesting. Her would-be fiance, also interesting. Her seducer, she sounds like she gets around a bit. And her former landlord and lover. So yeah, she definitely...
I feel like it's going to be this sort of one, like a bit like Agatha Christie, where you read it and you're going through it and you're kind of trying to
work out who did it.
Who did it?
Yeah, and I feel like one of these people sort of, you kind of hopefully will get some hints about who it might be, and then probably be wrong, because I like it when you're wrong. Like, I like to
a
kind of
little
get,
red herring.
yeah, like you sort of get suspicious about someone, and then later on you're like, oh no. So I like that kind of twist and turn sort of thing, and I'm hoping that that's what this is going to bring to the table. So I'm quite excited to give this a go. It is quite a chunky book, and I normally avoid chunky books, but I kind of had a quick flick through the first couple of pages, and it was quite easy reading, because I normally read young adult fiction, so I like sort of just quick, fast-paced, easy reading, because it's just who I am. Like, I'm not sophisticated like you, darling.
Darling, if that's your jam, that's your jam. Next up, we have Frolic of the Beasts by... I knew you were going to do it.
Try not to. Frolic. Is that word?
Frolic is a good word, isn't it? Oh dear. Right. Next up, we have Frolic of the Beasts by Yukio Mishima. And this is a Penguin Classics, so it's a little bit old school. I think this was published in Japan in 1961, so it's a modern classic. And it just sounds really intriguing. Like, it's about this love triangle that kind of gets dangerous.
Do they frolic?
They probably frolic like beasts. I mean, it's got a very sexual connotation to it, which is why Charlotte's laughing, because she's a baby.
Because I'm an immature kid at the back of the class.
Yeah. So I feel like it's got elements of thriller in it. There is something, like, it does say about a, where is it? I've literally just... someone is driven to an act of violence that will bind these 3 people together forever.
An act of violence, you say?
And just like the front page just looks very mysterious as well. Like, it's just some random person in the middle of a field with their thumb up in the air. Like, it's a bit strange, but it looks a bit whimsical and poetic. So I feel like memory is going to come into play with this, and it's just going to be a bit of a intriguing read. And I do love Japanese fiction, but I've never really read anything earlier than 1980s in Japanese fiction. So it'll be interesting to kind of go back a little bit more in time to see what that brings to the writing, because obviously like culture of the time flavours the writing. That sounded fucking sophisticated.
Flavours the writing.
But it does,
There's
like...
a sprinkle of salt and a dash of pepper.
Oh no.
Sorry, I just can't deal with your flavour. My next book that I got is Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds, and it's basically about a guy called Jack who meets a girl at a party and he just pretty much falls in love with her because that's just what happens in books.
And real life sometimes.
But, well, maybe, I don't know. But, and then basically she dies. So it's not very happy. I don't like happy books. They're just boring. But yeah, basically she dies. But then, weirdly, apparently her death triggers him going back in time to when they first met. And so then he can warn her that she's going to die, I guess. And so then he sort of changes that. But then in doing so, it says here that when a choice he makes turns deadly for someone else, he then has to work out, you know, how far are you willing to go really to save someone. And I thought that would be such an interesting read, because imagine if you knew that someone that you really liked, or like a member of your family or someone was going to die and you could stop it, but then doing that then made someone else die. Oh, like it's just the whole sort of moral kind of can of worms, isn't it really? And I just find that kind of thing absolutely fascinating. It's like kind of that whole sort of thing, if you could end world hunger by killing one person, like should that one person's life be worth less than 100 other people? And think, well, maybe more than 100.
Billions.
Billions of people are hungry, but is that person's life worth less than all these other people? It's just, that kind of thing just really kind of gets my head sort of excited. I don't know why, it's quite a dark thing really, but I feel like hopefully it'll be quite interesting. And yeah, it's just my kind of jam.
It's your sort of usual time travel conundrum, isn't it? You feel like you can solve an issue,
but then you end up making it worse.
You end up making it worse. But my next one is another classic. It's another modern classic. I'm all about that classic lifestyle. And this is The Complete Cosmocomics by Italo Calvino. I've read Invisible Cities by Calvino and I really, really liked it. And this is actually part of my university course this year, which is like 1800s to modern day literature. So I thought I'd grab it fairly soon because I know I want to read it anyway, because I want to read more of Calvino's work. The Cosmocomics tell the story of the history of the universe from the Big Bang through millennia and across galaxies. So basically it's a collection of short stories about the history of mankind.
Sounds pretty epic.
But it's a bit weird and poetic and whimsical and strange, because that's just Calvino. Like, the front cover's a bit shit, but it's okay.
I mean, it is judge a book by its cover.
I do though, to a certain extent. My version of it normally, because obviously I've got to read this for university, so most of the time you should always get the exact books that they recommend. But normally for a book I would look at different versions of it to try and find the prettiest cover, because... So that's technically not judging it by its cover, it's knowing the book's good, or apparently good, and you might like it, and then finding the best version of it.
An aesthetically pleasing version. Okay, and my last book, because I only got 3, is Before I Met You, and it's by Lisa Jewell. And I just randomly picked this up when Kate was looking at loads of other books and I was a bit bored, because I have a very short attention span. And I picked it up and I just read the blurb, not thinking I would like it at all. And then it said about being set in 1920s. And then it sort of said like half a century later, her granddaughter kind of finds out some secrets about her grandmother. And it changes her whole life, and I thought, that sounds kind of interesting, because I find like the older generation sort of, I love 1920s, 30s, 40s, that kind of era. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to read a book set in that time. And I think what happens is, because I kind of flicked through, is it flits between the grandmother's life when she was a young woman in the 1920s, and then it flicks to like the mid-90s, the grungy mid-90s apparently. When this granddaughter's also living her life, and apparently things that happened to her grandmother will influence her, which I thought was kind of intriguing, because I feel like families are very complicated, weird things, and it would be pretty cool to have like a scandalous grandmother. Well, I don't know whether she's scandalous, she might just have not really done anything.
I mean, scandalous might have meant a different thing in the 1920s. She might have flashed her ankle at some postman.
Oh. But yeah, so I feel like it might be quite a sweet book, though. I kind of feel like it'll be heartwarming, perhaps.
Yeah.
I mean,
you might like cry a few times, but in a nice way.
It says Fabulous by the Daily Mail. I'm not sure if I trust the Daily Mail, though.
And then my final book is another translated piece of literature. And this is The Nine-Cloud Dream by Kim Man-jong. And this is actually a 17th century Korean novel. And it is a classic. And it's also got Buddhist philosophy weaved into it. So it's basically so up my street it hurt.
Ouch.
And there's a few illustrations in it as well. Like, look. Like a little mountain scene.
Aww.
Like, cute. Yeah, and it's just a classic, and I love Korean literature, and I like learning about their history. So I'm kind of excited to read this, because this will be the oldest piece of Korean literature that I have read, and it has a high status as a piece of literature in Korea. So it's the sort of thing that, you know, like we have things like Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. This is the sort of equivalent to that as a historical novel. So I'm intrigued, and it also helped me learn about culture and history and Buddhist thinking, which is something I'm really passionate about.
So they are all the books that we have recently purchased.
And if you liked the sound of any of them, we will leave all the links down below, so go and find your book.
Keep your eyes peeled, because they might be popping up in future book club videos that we are going to be doing on our channel. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you back here very soon. Bye bye!